Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK Show, where we're going to be discussing some of the things which are important to you. Yes, we are coming at you live from Syria. We're going to be discussing some of the things that have taken place over the past 24 hours. We are coming at you live on X. There we are. And we're also on YouTube. So we're going to get started here, brothers and sisters. If you see something that you like, please do hit the like, hit the share button so that we can bring in more people and they'll get a chance to benefit from some of the things that we're going to discuss here. Now, on this show, in case you are new to it, you will have an opportunity to send in your questions, comments, and or concerns so that we can have a good idea in terms of taking your pulse. What do you think of some of the things, not only that are happening, but also some of the things that we're saying here? All right, everybody, let's get started here. Firstly, as everybody knows, just yesterday, Syrian President Ahmad Sharaa, formerly known as Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, went to the White House to have a sit-down meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, there's some pluses, there's some minuses, and we're going to do our best to try to discuss exactly what those pluses and minuses actually are. The first thing we have to make crystal clear to everybody here, and I think that this is important. I am a Muslim. Syria is a Muslim country, and the Islamic element or the Muslim element, if you want to call it that, can't be just sidelined because people are saying, we need some money. We need some cash to come into this country and everything's going to be all right. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just not real. But I'm also going to make crystal clear, inshallah, that it's also not only about memorization of Quran, and running a country is not only about a hadith, memorization, and just the study of Islamic sciences, that there is an actual financial security element, and more than that, and a governing legislative element to all of this. Okay, so I'm trying to help you to understand where some of this that we're going to be discussing is coming from. All right, so let's get down to it. The first issue is that sanctions. Let's talk about sanctions. Yesterday, were the sanctions lifted from this visit from Ahmad Sharaa, which is the first visit by any Syrian president ever to the White House? Now, some people say, there's a plus right there, Bilal. We're moving up in the world. Are we? Because it's only going to mean something if there's actual tangible results on the ground. Other than that, it's just a photo op. And the rest of the 26 million Syrians weren't in the photo. So let's not look at it from an aspect of a photo op or this is progress because no other Syrian president ever went to the White House, because other Syrian presidents were allied with the enemies of the United States, talking Russia, Iran, and so on and so forth. Okay. So first thing, sanctions, were they lifted? Well, yes and no. Yes, they were lifted, but no, they were not done away with. What does that mean? As we made mention 6 months ago, Donald Trump had given waivers, which is a 180-day waiver, to keep the sanctions from automatically coming back into play. And they were renewed in the respect that they were kept lifted from the Syrian economy. Was that positive? Yeah, that was positive. But we also have to look at the negative side of it. Being that the Caesar sanctions are not being lifted, because that's got to come from Congress, and they've said, oh, we've got to talk to Congress. It's got to be some of this, it's got to be some of that. Miraculously, Donald Trump has a great time and is very effective in getting the things that he wants inside of America, but somehow this Congress thing is really just holding things up. Okay, but let's take it for what it is. All right. Now, so the first thing is the sanctions. It was another 180-day waiver for the sanctions. That means in 6 months' time, Ahmad Shara's got to come back. I don't know if he'll get another visit back to the White House just for this, but his administration has to go and talk to Washington and let them know that they're still cool, that they've been doing some of the things that Washington wants them to do, and therefore they should keep the sanctions up because they weren't lifted. Okay, that's the first thing that we had to discuss. The next thing that we need to discuss is, well, what else took place there? Well, and this is the most damaging, disappointing thing, that some people who may be watching this are not very religious, that they may think that there's only a religious element here, but I'm going to tell you that it isn't. Let's talk about this global coalition on ISIS. And just for authenticity purposes, I want to read a quote from Hamza al-Mustafa, who is the Minister of Information for the new Syrian government. And he stated, quote, "Syria recently signed a political cooperation declaration with the International Coalition to Defeat ISIS, confirming its role as a partner in combating terrorism and supporting regional stability. The agreement is political and until now contains no military component," end quote. Okay, now let's kind of take a look at this. Firstly, according to the government, the reason that they have done this and joined into the coalition against ISIS are for several reasons. One, the resources, financial and military resources, are going to the SDF, Kurdish militia-controlled areas that's in the northeastern part of the country, and it's not coming to Damascus. Therefore, they joined the coalition so that they, as the state, would be the ones who would take up the role in terms of fighting ISIS in Syria. And by default, some of those resources would therefore come to Damascus. That's one of the reasons why they stated that they joined up. It doesn't match the facts, and I will explain. The biggest reason why it doesn't match is because on the 10th of October of this year, just 1 month and 1 day ago, $130 million was allocated to the budget of the SDF, who are in command or in control of the northeastern part of the country. So their 2026, not 2025, 2026 budget has already been approved by the Pentagon. That was a month ago. Why would they join the coalition on that pretext when the next year's budget has already been approved? A second issue here is that the United States of America is already, I'm going to say, they're making a fool out of some of the seemingly goodwill that some of the Syrian people seem to still have for a country that's carrying out a genocide against their Muslim brothers and sisters. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Now, when you've got America, who's talking about the SDF and the Kurdish-controlled militia forces in those territories have got to join up with Damascus. Okay, fine. Why are you approving next year's budget for them? Just let them know, look, you got to sit down with Damascus, come to an agreement, and then we'll talk about whatever budget has to be put in place for your transition. But they didn't do that. Why? They have no intentions, brothers and sisters. They're not going to join up with Damascus in the form that people are thinking. And Allah knows best why. Because Washington's foreign policy and Tel Aviv's foreign policy are one and the same. They're not two, they're not closely aligned, they're one and the same. And it is just not in the interest of Tel Aviv for the Kurdish militia forces to join Ahmad Sharaa's government. Why is that? Well, first of all, they have to, I'm talking about Tel Aviv, they absolutely have to have a weak and distracted Syria on their border. They can't have a unified and militarily empowered entity on their border. And if the Kurdish forces were to join Damascus, maybe not today, but maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 6 months from now, that a conflict might erupt between Syria and Israel. They share a border, and there have been lots of bombings from the Israeli side, no return fire from the Ahmad Sharaa side. But so it's entirely possible. Why would Tel Aviv want to add the SDF's military might to Ahmad Sharaa's military might to possibly, maybe, kind of, woulda, coulda, shoulda, entice them to carry out some type of retaliatory strikes on Israeli territory? So, brothers and sisters, don't waste your hopes, dreams on that. I don't see that the Kurdish militia forces are going to join Ahmad Sharaa's government, certainly not in the form that people are thinking that they're going to dissolve like the other rebel forces did, and the Department of Defense can just distribute them any way that they want. That, I believe, and Allah knows best, is simply not going to happen. The next reason, because they've joined so that they could fight ISIS and fight terrorism. How in the world is Ahmad Sharaa, Abu Muhammad Jolani, former leader of Hayat Tahrir Sham, Jabhat Shafat Sham, Jabhat Nusra, now his government is talking about fighting terrorism? They were branded as terrorists. I never thought that Ahmad Sharaa was a terrorist. I have other problems and other issues that I would disagree with him vehemently about. But I never thought that he was a terrorist. But the rest of the world did. So now you join the rest of the world and you want to fight terrorism. Do I think that ISIS are a bunch of ill-advised people who are totally out of their Islamic minds? Absolutely, positively, yes. But where are ISIS attacks here in Syria? I mean, you might be sitting there saying, yeah, we haven't heard about him. And I'm sitting here in Syria and I'm saying, yeah, I haven't heard about him either. And I've said for a long time that we're hearing so much talk about ISIS is regrouping and watch out for ISIS and they're coming back. I talk to people all the time. I don't know of these attacks that have been happening here in Syria. I firmly believe that they will start to take place. Some motorcycle car bomb, explosives strapped to a motorcycle and such like that, because they've got to keep this money flowing. So I believe that that might happen, and there might be elements, maybe even from the Washington side, who would pull off these kinds of attacks to justify their presence here. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from the Damascus side. It might be the Washington side, but we haven't been seeing it. So why are we calling in an elephant to stomp out an ant that might be hiding under the soil? It makes no sense, brothers and sisters. It makes zero sense. And you have to only look at Iraq and Afghanistan. Everywhere that the American military goes, they ruin the country. I'm going to say it again. Wherever the U.S. military goes, they ruin the country. And you have only to look at Afghanistan, you have to look at Iraq and other places. Now, some might say, oh, well, they're not going to be there to fight. They're only going there to fight ISIS. Well, you've got 13 assassinations that were carried out this year alone by drone attacks. That was 13 assassinations in 12 separate attacks here in Syria. Only 2 of them, to my knowledge, actually targeted people who had links, who allegedly had links to ISIS. I can't sit here and verify that, but I can say that only 2 of the 13 actually had some type of link. Now, that could be anybody. Okay, they knew some people who were part of ISIS. There are thousands of people here who knew people who went to ISIS. And you've got to understand something, that it wasn't only foreigners that went to ISIS. So many Syrians that were a part of it also. So that was a part of the social fabric here in Syria going back to 2014, 2015, 2016. But that's been largely done away with. And I'm using the word largely here because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are 0 ISIS elements, but I'm going to sit here and tell you, I don't know where they're operating from. Okay, wait a minute. They say they're operating from the desert. Okay, we know people, the desert is not an uninhabited area here in Syria. You have people who go to the desert all the time for different reasons, relaxation, cookouts, this or that. So the desert actually isn't like the Sahara Desert where no one ever goes out there. But even if they do, okay, so you've got a group of quote unquote terrorists that are out in the desert and they're quote unquote regrouping. I've been hearing about this regrouping thing in the desert going back at least 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And why are we not seeing any of these attacks? So I can't understand why Ahmad Sharaa would go there and give away his sovereignty to combat a problem that he doesn't have. And if he does have it, and you do have these ISIS elements, the fact that we haven't been seeing all of these attacks makes it crystal clear he could have handled that himself. He's got some guys with some masks and some guns. Why doesn't he go and tackle it themselves? Which brings us to the third issue, where they say, as a part of the government, that the United States, the coalition, is going to tackle, go after ISIS anyway. And to protect our sovereignty, we are joining the coalition so that we could, quote unquote, have a better controlling command what happens within our borders. Okay, right there you're saying that you don't have sovereignty. Fine, we got that. You guys are new, just starting out. That's an issue, but we're not going to blame you for it. All right. The other thing is that from what I understand, one of the conditions that some of the government people inside of Ahmad Sharaa's government, what they wanted was for the command center to be in Damascus. Nope, not happening. It's in Jordan. So the command and control center is going to be in Jordan, from what I understand, not here in Damascus. There will be a representative from the government or representatives to that control center in Jordan. So what's really been accomplished here? You're not making the decisions there, because if you could help to make the decisions, it would be inside of your own borders. It wouldn't be in a foreign country. That sounds a lot like somebody is going to be given orders and there's going to be attacks here and so on and so forth. So get you guys ready. That's what it sounds like to me. I could be wrong. But the issue here is that you've got a problem, and then you join the people who are creating that problem, and somehow that gives you back sovereignty. No, that gives them legitimacy. And Allah knows best. That brings us to the last point. And the last point is it even... Oh, I'm sorry. No, 2 points. Before we go there, it says in the statement here, the agreement is political until now, contains no military component. This is not true. I'm going to come right out and I'm going to tell you, this is not true. I don't care what their agreement actually states because they haven't made it public. But the reality is that when they've carried out attacks on ISIS, they've done 5 over this past year. 5. In Al-Bab, who was the force that was cordoning off the area when the Americans were lowering their troops down from the helicopters? Those were government troops, government from here in Syria. Now, they may not be in the helicopters being lowered down, but those guys who are cordoning off the area and everything, they didn't have flowers and candy in their hands. They had guns. That's the reality. How are we saying that there's no military component to this? Same situation in Atma, same situation in Hama. What are we talking about here, brothers and sisters? There's no military option? Okay, let's say that there's no military option. And it's just an intelligence thing. Oh, we're just telling you where the Muslims are at. They happen to be over there. Go get them. And that is like okay with everybody? Oh, but it's supposed to be ISIS, the terrorists. But wait a minute. 13 of the people who were assassinated by drone attacks this year, only 2 of them really had any kind of connection to ISIS. And I can't even verify that that was a real connection. I'm not saying it wasn't, just saying I couldn't verify it. The others didn't have a connection to ISIS. So who exactly are they going after? That's got to be a question, which brings us to the final thing. Islamically, is it even permissible? Now, I'm not a sheikh. I'm not going to try to pretend to be one, but everybody understands that allying with the Jews and the Christians against Muslims is just not allowed in Islam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay, guys, let's talk about some of the things, some of the questions, comments, and or concerns that you have mentioned here. So let's get at it. We've got Mu'in here who says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and it's good to have you here. We've got here, Assalamu alaikum, brother Bilal, alaikum salam. My name is Abdul Kareem from down under, aka Australia. Good to have you here, Akh. Good to have you here. Okay, we've got another one here who says, do you even think there are pluses from this visit? He was there to listen to the orders and apply and join America in the fight against Muslims. Were there pluses? The sanctions were renewed, being lifted. That's a plus. Wouldn't have been nice if they weren't, but how those lifted sanctions even came about gave away sovereignty from the hands of the Syrians to the hands of genociders. From the hands of the Syrians to genociders. Donald Trump and the Americans are genociders and carrying out a genocide in the Palestinian territories. And you got to keep a thing in mind. Don't listen to what Donald Trump says. Remember when he said ceasefire? Okay, almost 300 Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire started. Why should we listen to Donald Trump? Next, he said, no, they're not going to annex the West Bank. I won't allow it. Okay, well, settler violence in October was the worst it had ever seen, and it continues to grow. The farmers are not allowed to tend to their all-important olive grove crops that they rely on because of settlers. And when the settlers come, who's right alongside them? The IDF to protect them. Okay, where's Donald Trump? He didn't even mention anything about the 300 Palestinians who've been killed since the start of this ceasefire. He doesn't even mention them. They're not even on the radar. It's all about, peace has come to the Middle East for the first time since anybody can remember, as Donald Trump said. What kind of drugs does he do? No, he thinks you do drugs because he says it and there's not enough pushback. I'm calling him out for it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So whatever pluses, other than keeping the sanctions up, and I don't think that that's enough of a plus for the minuses, I can't recall them, and Allah knows best. Next, you need to see this 250. If the Muslims, rich countries, ain't helping their brothers and sisters, that empty void shall be filled. In this circumstance, the U.S. is doing it. It continues. We need to start planning today on how to make these Muslim leaders act and behave like a proper Muslim leader. We, the people, have the power, Bilal. I got to give it to you straight. I agree with you. I agree with you. Because the Muslim leaders are not accountable to the people. So they don't care what you think. Who cares what their population actually thinks of them? They don't have the guns to dethrone them. They don't have the economic ability to shake their thrones. And if they don't have popularity, acceptable loss. The Americans are keeping me here. That's what happens in all of these countries. And I'm going to agree with you. I totally agree with you. We got to have mechanisms in place where the people are mobilizing and they are holding their leaders to account. That does not necessarily mean that they go to the Qasr al-Jamhuriya or whatever castle and or mansion that the main cat, wherever he sleeps. That doesn't mean that you go there and you drag him into the street. But that element of accountability to the people's got to be established, or we're not going to accomplish anything. Because our enemies are only going to install leaders that are user-friendly for them, not for us. That's just it. The Americans, I mean, Donald Trump is always talking about, oh, you know, Ahmad Sharaa is a good leader. Ahmad Sharaa is this, Ahmad Sharaa is that. You got to ask yourself a question at some point. Why is he like Ahmad Sharaa so much? What's going on? I'm not making any assumptions here. But when Firaun is saying that he likes some of the followers of Musa, alayhi salam, something ain't right. Something's wrong. And I think that that has to be examined. Because the Americans, whether you like it or you don't like it, they're the enemies of the Muslims. And let me tell you something. For all of you who are out there who are not very religious, or you may not even be Muslim at all, and say, oh, well, you're always talking about the Islamic element to this whole thing, and the people just want to eat. They just want to live. Let me tell you something. The Palestinians just wanted to eat and just wanted to live. And look what it got them. So don't think that just because you may sit there and say to Tel Aviv, we just want to eat, we just want to live, we just want some electricity, we just want to have bread, and that's it, that Netanyahu's going to say, oh, okay, I didn't know that. So you know what, I'm not going to send any more bombs over there. I'm not going to arm any more of your internal enemies. I'm not going to bankroll any of those militia forces in the northeastern part of your country anymore. I'm not going to do that because I was confused. I didn't know that all you wanted to do was live. It doesn't work like that, brothers and sisters. It doesn't. Wish it did, but it doesn't. It's not real. It's fake. And Allah knows best. All right, let's see here. Digital Resistance Group says, Daniel Hakika Joe included one of your segments in his live stream yesterday, agreeing with your criticism of the current administration. Collab needed, brother. You know, I keep saying that I wanted to take a look at some of his stuff. It's just that I just haven't had the time to really focus on it. I think I spoke to him or exchanged messages with him, but this is going back about 3-4 years ago. So I haven't really seen much. I see some things from time to time, but I mean, if there's going to be something that's going to help the brothers and sisters, I wouldn't mind to be a part of it. Which doesn't necessarily mean that we have to agree on everything. It doesn't mean that. So yeah, if you know him and all, I would I wouldn't mind to have a conversation with him. I really wouldn't. I've seen him do some good stuff. There's some controversial stuff, but then again, my wife would say I do some controversial stuff. Hopefully not in public. Next. Nearly a year after Assad was toppled, America, Turkey, and Israel beyond the Golan occupy Syria. Syrians will tell me this is freedom. This is liberation. Well, I want to pick some of this apart here. America occupies a base in Tenef, which is in Syria, the middle part of Syria. It's between, I guess you could say, between Suedat and the northeastern territories controlled by the Kurdish militia forces. And Israel is occupying the entire governorate of Suedat in the southeastern part of the country, as well as the southwestern part of the country in the Golan Heights, Quneitra area. Then let's talk about Turkey. Turkey is not really occupying Syria. They're not. Their administrative role actually has ended and has been transferred to the new Syrian government. So I don't want to be unfair to anybody, but Turkey is not an occupying force. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Now, if they were, I would tell you. Next. Brother, seeing the outcome of Syrian situation has really disheartened many on the outside to those who were invested from the beginning. It's been a massive fail. Well, if you're looking at this as the end goal, as the end, it's a catastrophe, a monumental failure. But I don't look at it like that. And I think a lot of other people need to see something here. If you looked at the situation on December the 7th, you would have said the same thing, colossal fail. But then in December the 8th, all of a sudden, things changed. So it's a work in progress, and it's not static, it's not fixed. When there's a civil war and one side overcomes the other side, once they've overcome the other side, that's only a part of the actual landscape. Now they've got to govern to show that they can correct some of the bad practices that were happening before their new revolutionary administration took power. So I don't think that we can look at it in the static form, like this is a still frame, because it's not. Things are changing. I think that people have got to stay engaged. I think that Syria is far too valuable to just say, well, we lost, so I'm just going to switch off. I don't think that that's the right thing to do. I think that you should hang tough, because we are. Next item up for bids. We've got here Bilal. If Hikmat Hajri is Tel Aviv's man, is Ahmad Sharaa Washington and Ankara's man? Yes. Yes. I mean, isn't it clear? I could understand the closeness between Sharaa and Turkey because Turkey was a big backer of the revolution. So that's kind of organic. So I can understand that. In terms of being Washington's man, yeah. Anybody with eyes can see that. I mean, at the end of the day, he allows their forces to come in and to do their thing, and then joins them, and then says, well, it's to help control it. He has no control over those people. He has zero control over those people. Throw it out of your mind. Okay, what do you think he's going to do? Well, if the Americans say, yeah, we got to roll over here, get your people ready, what's he going to do? He's going to tell them no? No, I ain't having it. Come on, guys. Let's be for real. Let's see. Okay, next up. I agree the vision we've seen for our beautiful Muslim country run by Sharia law. Look, guys, I'm going to say this, inshallah ta'ala, until the day that I die. If you really want this Muslim country to be successful, you get yourself some Sharia law, because it has accountability in it. All of this other stupidity that we're doing in all these different Muslim countries has no accountability. It does nothing except create warlords who are not loyal to the people. I say this again. All it does is create warlords who are not loyal to the people. They're loyal to outside interests, and that's a major problem. That's what you see in Pakistan. That's what you see in Egypt. That's what you're seeing here in so many different countries. And therefore, the people are just along for the ride. They don't vote in their leaders. They don't choose their leaders. They don't have a voice. They don't have a role. It's all kind of just happen, and they get bust upside the head, and they got to take it, or if they raise their voice, they get locked up. That's got to change. This cannot be allowed to continue. And the reason why, when you watch Fox News and you watch every anti-Muslim pundit who speaks, they're all talking about Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law. Ask yourself a question. Why are you worried about Sharia law so much when there isn't a single Sharia compliant state in the world, possibly outside of Afghanistan? So then somebody could sit there and say, hey, wait a minute now. Why are you worried about Sharia law so much? Because they understand that these countries have real accountability to the people. As the Quran and Sunnah, as their constitution, they can't play the same games, brothers and sisters. They weren't able to play the games with the Taliban on the reel-to-reel. They told the Taliban, going back in 2001, we'll either give you a carpet of gold or we'll give you a carpet of bombs. Taliban said, we ain't having it. And they opted for sovereignty over being sellouts. And it took them a nasty, long 20-year fight. But at the end of it, they are the real power brokers in their country. And that's real. And I'll challenge anybody who's got something to say about that. Well, German Force here says, Ahmad Sharaa didn't receive the red carpet from Trump, which means a lot, right? That could mean a lot of things, and that's why I didn't go too deep into that. It could have been from Trump, who says, I'm not giving this guy much of a play. Let him come through the service entrance or the back door, the side door, because I don't want to give this guy any real importance. Or it could have come from Ahmad Sharaa himself, who he himself may have said, look, I'm getting too much threats from my close proximity to Trump, and I'd like to downplay this a little bit. Could be. I don't have any facts, so I can't speculate on that. There was even some reports wherein the Marine that stands, or some of the Marines that stand at the entrance to the White House, and they salute the leaders as they come into the White House, that they refuse to salute Ahmad Sharaa because he killed Marines in Iraq, going back to the time he was in Iraq. Well, I mean, I would ask that Marine, what were the Marines doing in Iraq? Maybe if y'all weren't in Iraq, none of that would happen. It's not like Ahmad Sharaa, and now I'm here defending Ahmad Sharaa. It's not like he went to America and killed some policemen that were in New York or Los Angeles or Miami. You guys went to Iraq. What y'all doing over there? Okay. My moment of defending Ahmad Sharaa is now over. So I don't know what to make of the lack of red carpet treatment. So I'm not going to speculate. So I just kind of leave that there, and Allah knows best. Now, okay, Bilal, the Americans occupy the Kurdish areas as well as Tenef, and a Turkish official in June said their troops will withdraw from Syria just yet. I don't think that they will, and I don't think that Turkish troops, who are not really an imposing force, to be honest with you, that it would be within the Syrian or the Turkish interests. Why? Because you've got the SDF militia forces to the northeast that are salivating to be I'm losing my English here, I'm very sorry, dam, to receive resources and assistance from Tel Aviv. But I told you Tel Aviv and Washington are one and the same. They've already got their budget for 2026. They haven't gotten there yet. For 2026, their $130 million budget has already been approved. It's already been approved. So Turkish interests do not lie in leaving a weak Syrian army that would possibly have to face those SDF forces at some time. I don't think that they're ready for it as of yet. And Allah knows best. Okay, we've got Meteor Kegji, or he says, you are a terrorist. I'm a terrorist. Hey, I haven't been called a terrorist for a long time. All right. He says, get out of my country. I don't want you. Okay, I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind. Maybe you can respond, because we'll be on just for a few short minutes. Did you participate in the civil war? Are you even inside of Syria? What was your contribution to liberating Syria from the clutches of Bashar al-Assad? What is your current situation in terms of good governance for the country of Syria? Can you maybe help us to understand what some of your contributions are? Then we can have more of a conversation. That would be great. And Allah knows best. All right, let's take one or two more, give him an opportunity to respond. It says here, Allah Almighty in Surah Al-Alaq says, no, but indeed man transgresses because he sees himself self-sufficient. And then, end quote, I hope our brothers in Syria realize that. Thank you for the warning, and I certainly hope that they do too, because if you're not going to be in a situation where you remember this, then you're going to make decisions that totally violate your shahada, because you're doing it for some worldly thing. We better watch out. All right, now let's see. Let's take one more. Okay. It says, it seems Muslim analysts are not really talking about Syria. They might forget it like they did Libya. Well, people had forgotten Syria before December 8th also. All of this is going to refer back to Allah. We just have to work. That's all we have to do. All right, let's see. Last one. Okay, we've got here Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are a big example of the Zionists are going bonkers because they know they're losing the narrative big time. Oh, but they are. Oh, but they are. All right. Okay, we're going to leave it here, brothers and sisters. Look, before you go, please do visit our crowdfunding page. We really need you to help us out if you are able to. Listen, brothers and sisters, go to Medina.com. That's Medina, MADINAH.com/Voices of Truth. Take a look at our campaign. We really need your help. $5, $10, 500, 5,000. We need it. Come on, brothers and sisters, help us out. That's Medina.com/Voices of Truth. I am Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allah khair. Assalamu alaikum.